Now, before we get on to the really fun stuff of this workflow, which is the variant calling, we have one last step, and that's to use both the mapping output from our original mapping and the guidance variant tracks to perform some local realignment and improve our mapping. So up here, we want to look for the module local realignment. Say OK. And let's pull this down, give us some room. And then what I also like to do is, this is kind of a secondary step on the workflow. This is kind of in the main flow, so we have our read mappings going in there, and then we have our combined variant track going in there. So this was the whole purpose of this indels and structural variants, is to feed into a local realignment with our original mapping to improve it. If you look at local realignment, we're essentially going to use the default parameters. But if you look in at your help, it gives a pretty detailed description of why we are performing this step. Okay? So you can see the types of things that it's trying to correct for are these instances where, for whatever reason, you end up with these mismatches in the alignments and create these indels, and things just don't perfectly line up based on its first mapping, but it's going to use some of those additional guidance tracks and indel information to help improve these sections where you may have some misalignments and some indels that shouldn't be there. And what's really nice about this help too is, you can go in and it talks about the algorithm, their realignment for unpaired ends, the guided realignment, multipass, known limitations, computational. This is a really good section. This could be an hour-long video on its own talking about this and how to run it. So we're going to use these default parameters, and so let's just say finish there. We're going to leave that, and once again you have a number of potential. I think it's going to give me an error here. Yep, only one can be used. And in this particular instance, when we go into our basic variant detection, we're going to be using our read tracks, not a read mapping. So we're going to delete that, and we'll use these two as output from here. And once again, once we get done with this step here, this is where to me the fun stuff begins, because we've done our alignments, and we'll have a new reads track that we could then use for variant detection, for a lot of our mapping and extracting our consensus sequence, etc. So we have this. Let's save it as step 7, local realignment. Save this in the workflows. Oops, looks like I saved something else in the wrong place. I'll fix that. Say OK. And now that it's saved and it's validated, we're going to run this again. Let's get rid of these results. We'll go into reads, grab our favorite reads, save, new folder. Step 7, local realignment. And finish. And we'll pause, come back on when that's done. Okay, that took a few minutes, but now we have the results. The other thing I forgot to do beforehand was just delete that, because we don't want that as output. But it will be in this one. But we can, that guidance track, we can just delete it from here, because we've already seen that. So the output that we've received now from the local realignment are both a reads track and realigned regions. So this is the locally realigned reads track, and this is the realigned regions. So if we go to our reads here, once again, you're going to see that multicolor mapping, but I'll just remove a bunch of the colors that are unimportant right now for what we want to do. But you can see once again, here's our mapping output. But this is now has gone through several steps of trimming primers and local realignments. So this is what we consider, our final quality read mapping for our later analysis. And then here is a realigned regions type of output. And I haven't explored this in depth. Definitely topic of another video, where we're going to be probably floating around 2 hours here just in creating this workflow without spending a lot of time on these other outputs. But it will be saved here in the materials that will be available to you, and you can go in and explore that section. Okay. Well, now the real fun begins. The next video, we'll start getting into our variant detection. So, talk with you then.